outside. They take depositions, and the people under investigation, they don't get anything.
Yeah,
they don't get copies of anything.
We know as grand jury is an ex parte presentation.
Right. I think that's a technical term. It's an ex parte. The only party present is the prosecutor. Yep. Takes a deposition. It's a secret process. Nobody's allowed to talk about what happens. The person under investigation doesn't get anything. But the other power that a prosecutor has, and I'm not saying that every prosecutor uses this power in an improper manner, but the power they have is they could go to any witness and say, we're investigating Michael Milken, and we're looking at this 3 transactions, and you worked on them. I've been told you worked on them. Our theory is that they were illegal for this and this and this reason. If you could help us, you could be a witness for the government. If you can't help us, and we later find that you could have helped us, we will indict you. Yeah. If we indict you, we will indict you under what is called the RICO, the racketeering statute, yes. Which means we could take all your money and we could send you to prison for a long time. If you could help us, we'll give you immunity for prosecution, so no matter what you tell us, we will not prosecute you as long as you're telling the truth.
You can either have immunity or a target on your back, your choice.
Right, and it's perfectly legitimate under the system to tell somebody that. Now, if I went to the same person and I said, look, we've been working together a long time, your bonus is coming up, they're looking at these transactions, we think they're wrong, this is what we believe happened, if you could help us, that could affect your bonus, I'm going to get indicted for obstruction of justice. I can't do that. So I have no rights in this process. So what happened in this case, the lawyers, when Mike said, well, everybody's making a deal here, can I make a deal? And I remember Ed Williams' exact words he said to us. If you want to take this client, all famous people, all famous heads of companies, and you want to line them up like bowling balls and roll them, knock them down, I could go make a very good deal with you tomorrow. With the U.S.
Here's what
Attorney.
I got to do, if it's okay, Richard. I got a CBS special report coming on
go ahead.
the bridge in Baltimore. So I'll pause there, and then we got a quick newscast. We'll come back, and we will finish the story, and we will then give people an opportunity to call and have a conversation, ask questions. Back on Nightside right after this CBS News special report.
CBS News Brief. 6 bridge workers are presumed dead as the search and rescue mission is suspended. It follows the collapse of Baltimore's Key Bridge. Maryland State Police Superintendent Colonel Roland Butler Jr.
The last thing we want to do is put divers in the water with changing currents, low temperatures, very poor visibility, and so much metal and other unknown objects in the water.
U.S. Supreme Court justices hear arguments in a case that would limit how mifepristone is prescribed and distributed. Plaintiff's lawyer Aaron Hawley.
The FDA has shown a callous disregard for what women and girls experience when taking abortion drugs all alone. Every American should be deeply concerned by what the FDA has done. Women deserve better.
A New York judge issues a gag order against former President Donald Trump in his upcoming hush money trial. CBS's Graham
The judge described Trump's statements in other cases and this one as, quote, threatening, inflammatory, denigrating.
CBS News Brief, I'm Jennifer Kuiper.
Nightside with Dan Ray on WBZ, Boston's News Radio.
To paraphrase Bob Dylan's famous song, the lights, they are a-changing. Yes, indeed, there's a tidal wave of changes in lighting, and more than ever before, you need to see, feel, touch a light fixture before you buy it. You need to talk to the experts. You need to understand low and line voltage, LED and incandescent. Nina's is your only real choice where you can see the most extensive, jaw-dropping selection of premier lighting choices. And here's the clincher. Nina's guarantees that your price will be the same or lower than any e-commerce website. So what are you waiting for? Come to Nina's showroom closest to you for all your lighting needs. Visit ninaslighting.com or call 888-99-LAMPS.
Hey, business owners. Are you looking for a fast, easy way to get the cash you need to keep your business growing strong? I'm talking to Joel Bass, president of Swish Funding, and he says he has the perfect solution. Joel, what makes Swish Funding different?
Thanks, Mike. To start, at Swish Funding, we focus on your business revenue, not your personal credit score. And we're ready to help businesses with funding for overhead, expansion, inventory, payroll, or even slow cash flow. Next, whether you need $5,000, $500,000, or even $5 million, our process is quick, straightforward, and takes just minutes with funding available in less than 24 hours.
That sounds like a winning plan for any business. What does it take to qualify?
If you've been in business for over 1 year and have a monthly revenue of at least $25,000, you can get funding you need the same day.
Swish Funding really is different. Joel, what's the first step?
It's easy. Just go to swishfunding.com. That's SWISH funding.com. Swishfunding.com.
The free iHeartRadio app has over 100 commercial-free stations waiting for you right now, like Lost 80s. Just search Lost 80s and listen now on your free iHeartRadio app. iHeartRadio. Free never sounded so good.
I just quit smoking. Now I don't have any bad habits.
You don't have any bad habits?
Nope, just good habits now. Every morning I do 20 minutes on the Peloton, eat a healthy breakfast, and listen to WBZ News Radio.
And you do this every day?
Well, sometimes I skip the bike and go on a run.
Oh, that's great.
For donuts. But I always listen to BZ.
Every morning, get in the habit of starting your day by asking your smart speaker to play WBZ News Radio on the iHeartRadio app.
I'm Dan Watkins with a quick check of the stories trending on WBZ News Radio 1030. 2 men are charged with assaulting a truck driver on 495 in Bolton Monday. The road rage attack happened during the afternoon commute. The driver was attacked with a hammer. The victim from Maine was seriously hurt but is expected to survive. Javier Vargas and Juan Marin, both at Drake, face charges of assault and battery with a dangerous weapon and disorderly conduct. The suspects fled the scene but were later found in Marlboro. Boston's Open Streets program is coming back and bigger than before. WBZ's Emma Friedman.
Last year, Alston Brighton and East Boston joined in on the fun. Now, Mayor Wu announces this year's Boston Open Streets is making its way into yet another neighborhood.
And this year, as you heard, Hyde Park is the newest member added to the lineup.
For the past 2 years, Boston Open Streets has been growing. So this year, the city is also expanding the hours we can play in the streets car-free.
I'm Dan Watkins.
Nightside with Dan Ray on WBZ, Boston's News Radio.
My guest is Richard Sandler, lifelong friend, attorney for Michael Milken. His book, Witness to a Prosecution, which is published by Forbes Books. So all of a sudden, the heat comes down on Milken. And you've told us that he's done everything properly, broken no law, and yet he did plead guilty. Why?
So what had happened at that point, everybody's making a deal. The government's going out of their way to give immunity to people, everybody but him and his brother. And his brother, who, like I said, I was intimately involved there, his brother had nothing to do, or almost nothing to do, with the transactions they were looking at. The prosecutors eventually did acknowledge to me sometime later that probably if his brother had a different last name, he never would have been involved in this case. But it was certainly a leverage point for them to bring pressure on Michael. So since Michael was not in a position and certainly would not be a person who was going to try to ruin other people's lives by making up stories, he wasn't in a position to make a deal with the government by turning other people over. Finally, we got to a point where the government said, look, I think they probably felt the case was difficult, but they were willing to certainly try it. They figured they had all the weapons on their side, which they did, that they said, look, if you will plead to 6 different things, one could be a conspiracy to do the other 5, we will make a deal with you. You got to pay a lot of money, but we will find a deal. Mike decided he was going to, for the interest of his family, cut his losses, and we started working on what could he plead to that would be deemed felonies for him to plead to. And we started working on it, and we found 5 transactions that they would accept. Initially, they said one has to be insider trading. I said then he's not making a deal because he didn't do that. He never would do that. He never did that. So we found transactions that technically violated certain regulations, or at least deemed to. None of them had ever been subject to a criminal prosecution before or since. But we were able to come up with those. And in the course of discussions, they said, by the way, if he will plead, then we will drop the indictment against his brother. He and his brother had already been indicted, by the federal government.
Yeah.
So Mike ended up pleading to things. I go into detail exactly what they were in the book, because there's been so much misinformation over the years, Dan. I want people to know the facts. I actually quote from the plea agreement. I quote from the judge's court records of exactly what he did and what he didn't do.
It's a great read, and it also puts in context what was done. And, of course, the issue is, again, either if you want to term it prosecutorial abuse or you want to term it prosecutorial overreach, in either case, it's an unfair system which is used against someone. And I should mention that he did do 2 years, and he was eventually pardoned. But as I was reading the book, I came to understand that you and Michael enlisted the counsel and the advice of a close personal friend who's a friend of yours, who joins us, Harvey Silverglate, an attorney here from Boston, along with Alan Dershowitz. You went and you saw the movie Reversal of Fortune, and that lit the idea of getting in touch with Dershowitz, and along with Alan Dershowitz comes Harvey Silverglate and Andrew Good. And let me just work Harvey in here for a little bit.
Please.
Gentlemen, say hello. It's a small world after all.
Yes, it is.
Richard and I have known each other for a long, long time.
Yeah, and Harvey, you know the esteem that I hold you in and my audience holds you in. And when we talked about this earlier today, this is a case, in your opinion, and you're honest about your clients, this is a case, you agree with Richard Sandler, of actual innocence, which basically put Michael Milken in a situation where he felt compelled to plead guilty to crimes that he was not guilty of.
There is no doubt that Michael Milken is innocent of the crime. None. And let me tell you something. Richard has written his book. I wrote about the Milken case, a full chapter in my book, 2009, 3 Felonies a Day, How the Feds Target the Innocent. And Chapter 4 is Following or Harassing the Money. And in this case, the federal government, in my view, used criminal tactics. They were the criminals. Why do I say that? They held Lowell Milken, Michael's younger brother, hostage. That they were going to indict Lowell if Michael didn't plead guilty. Do you know what happens, Dan, if you or I do that? We are indicted and put away for a long time. It's called extortion.
Yep.
They extorted a plea. That's what they did. Isn't that right, Richard?
No question about it.
And Harvey, look, I know that you have a long and storied history with criminal prosecutions, and have dealt with a lot of different people. I know Richard has a wealth of experience. I think both of you know I had an involvement in a case up here that dealt with FBI corruption and the framing of innocent men. How rampant is this, gentlemen, in the system? Obviously, Richard knows the Milken case. Harvey, you know the Milken case not as well as Richard because he's lived with this his entire life. How rampant is this? Let me start with Richard. Is this the exception to the rule?
Well, one of the reasons I wrote the book was not only to set the record straight as to who Michael really is, based upon, as I said, the prosecutor's own statements and the court records, but also to let people understand that this could happen to anybody. Okay, that the powers of the prosecutor, if they are overreached, as you say, this could happen to anyone. And Harvey's had far more experience than I have. I have worked on one case Okay, I know it intimately backwards and forwards. Harvey has represented many, many defendants, many of whom didn't have the resources of Michael Milken. And as I say in the book, if someone with Michael's resources could be treated unfairly by the system, what chance do the other 99.9% of the people that go through the system have? So I hope that answers your question.
Harvey, I assume you would incorporate by reference everything that Richard just said and probably add something or two.
I would go further. In 3 felonies a day, how the first target the innocent, I have 8 chapters, each one presenting the same picture. This is what we call, and by the way, I had 40 cases. I told my publisher that. He said, look, you can't write a book with 40 cases. It'll be a telephone book. So pick the best 8. I had 40 cases in which this extortion, hostage-taking, which if anybody outside of the Department of Justice did it, they would be indicted instantly. You know, here's how it works. When the government wants to get a plea and they want to turn your client against someone else, turn someone else in, they have a meeting with the defense lawyer. It's called Queen for a Day. It's completely off the record. And in those Queen for a Day meetings, the prosecutor tells the defense lawyer what he has to get from the defendant in order for the defendant to get a good deal, what the defendant has to testify against somebody else. The script is written by the prosecutor, and then the defendant is told by his lawyer, this is the deal. You go to trial, you get convicted, you get 20 years. You make a deal, you get 6 months probation. These people would testify against their mothers. It is criminal, and yet it's routine. Queen for a Day.
Gentlemen, I want to take a quick pause here. I would like to invite callers, and I don't know if anyone wants to call and challenge the theory that we're espousing. They're more than welcome to, or if they want to just say that it's great that there are lawyers like Richard Sandler and Harvey Silverglate who are still practicing in this arena. Here's the number: 617-254-1030, 617-931-1030. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. I also want to finish up the story of Michael Milken's success post incarceration and set that part of the record straight as well. I hope my listeners have enjoyed this conversation and this hour, which we still have another segment to go, as much as I have. I feel honored that both of these gentlemen are friends now and are willing to be as honest and candid as they are about their practice of law and what they've had to deal with during their careers. Back on Nightside right after this.
It's Nightside with Dan Ray on WBZ, Boston's News Radio.
My name's Tommy, and I lost 85 pounds on Awaken 180. I just feel better, and that was evident when I went to the doctor, and all of my levels, cholesterol, had dropped off the map 3 months after I was in the program, and they were down like 159 was my total cholesterol level. I went in and I showed the coaches, and they were absolutely thrilled. I did have one huge awakening, if you would, that the program was going to work for me long term, and that was when in the fall of 2023, after I'd been on the program for about 9 months, I stepped on the scale and I did not see a 2. And that hasn't happened in 25 years. Awaken 180 is my solution for weight loss.
Thanks, Tommy. This is Dan Ray. Everything from lowering cholesterol and blood pressure to simply feeling better. Learn how easy it is to reach your goals with Awaken 180 Weight Loss. Reserve your at-home consultation today at awaken180weightloss.com.
Join us on May 19th for Climb to the Top Boston as we turn Gillette Stadium orange to conquer multiple sclerosis. Hundreds will challenge themselves, climbing the stadium stairs to raise awareness and funds for the 1 million Americans affected by MS. This event, hosted by the National MS Society, aims to raise over $300,000. To register for this great event or for more information about Climb to the Top Boston, visit climbmsboston.org. Let's climb for a cure.
My wife and I both, we ended up mildly sick for a few months, and the nasal congestion was probably the worst part. I had like a post-nasal drip, just super congested all the time. We were taking everything we possibly could, but nothing really worked.
Kyrie was miserable until a friend recommended Navage. Navage offers immediate drug-free congestion relief, flushing your nasal passages with refreshing saline and sucking out mucus, germs, and other airborne irritants. Don't live in misery this cold season. Use Navage so you can breathe easier, sleep better, and feel your best right away.
The biggest thing Navage has done has completely cleaned out my nasal passages. It was from the first use. I was able to just clear out anything that was stopping me from breathing correctly. Navage helps me clear the way, literally clear the way for me to operate better in the rest of my life.
Experience the Navage difference yourself. Navage is available at Navage.com or at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, and Rite Aid. Navage, Navage.
3 little words no parent wants to hear.
My tummy hurts.
And it always seems to happen at the worst times. Like in the middle of the morning rush, when you still have homework to check and lunches to pack, and of course, you're already late for work. Luckily, there's Pepto Kids. Pepto Kids gummies help relieve occasional stomach upsets, turning those 3 words into these 3 words.
I feel better.
Bad time for stomach upsets? Good time for Pepto Kids gummies. Fast support for little tummies.
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Your gas light's on. We need to fill up.
Gas around here is too expensive.
Don't drive all over searching for the lowest prices. Just download the free Upside app and get cash back for every gallon of gas you buy. I've already made around $200.
You can make that kind of cash back just for buying gas? I'm stopping now to download Upside and fill up my tank. Download the free Upside app to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Cash out anytime your bank account, PayPal, or e-gift card. Download the free Upside app now and use promo code GIFT for an extra 25 cents per gallon cash back on your first fill up. That's promo code GIFT.
It's Nightside with Dan Ray on WBZ, Boston's News Radio.
My guest from Los Angeles is Richard Sandler, the author of a book, Witness to a Prosecution, The Myth of Michael Milken. Having joined us is Harvey Silverglate. Ironically, back in the late 1980s, when Michael Milken was the target of federal prosecution, one of the prosecutors who were very much involved in this case, Richard, was a guy named Rudy Giuliani. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, Mr. Giuliani was the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, which is considered, I think, the most prime, powerful, whatever you want to call it, office in the Justice Department system. When I met, as I mentioned earlier, Edward Bennett Williams, he told me that Rudy Giuliani, to him, was the biggest piece of political meat that he had seen since Tom Dewey. Tom Dewey, a former U.S. Attorney for the Central District of New York, went on to be governor of New York and President of the United States. Ed's comment was that Mr. Giuliani had the same political ambitions and would do anything to further those ambitions. And prosecutors aren't all dishonest in the way they use their powers. Some are just trained to believe that they're doing it right and they're just supposed to win at all costs. Some are ambitious, okay, such as our prosecutor was ambitious. But it doesn't matter. They have these powers and they can be abused. And one of the problems I have with the system and why I wrote the book is that prosecutors never ask themselves, what if I'm wrong? Prosecutor has no downside. They win, they enhance their career, they get credit for winning the big case, especially a high-profile case. If they lose, they go on to the next case. The person under investigation has no upside. If they win, people still think they did something wrong and their reputation has been tarnished. And if they lose their freedom, which is a very, very serious matter.
Now the prosecutor in this case has actually cooperated with you in front of law school classes, correct?
Yes, the line prosecutor in this case was very gracious and came to a law school class that I taught on the subject to discuss his view of the prosecutorial system, having been away from it for a number of decades.
Had his view changed over time?
I don't think he feels that they did anything wrong or he did anything wrong in prosecuting the case, other than he did say that they should not have gone after Lowell Milken. He did acknowledge that. But he talked about what an exercise, using his terms, in raw power the prosecutorial system is, and what a war it is, and how the power of the government is so great, and that the prosecutor is trained to win. So he acknowledged all that.
Okay. Milken does his time, comes out, does his community service, pays a $600 million fine, all of this. But he's re-established his life. He also has been involved in the fight against prostate cancer, making people realize what a horrible and insidious that disease form of cancer that is. He also continues to be very much involved in charitable events. He holds conferences every year to which some of the most influential people in the country, you would give anything to be invited to attend. And he received a full pardon in 2020 from President Trump. And as I understand it from our conversation, Rudy Giuliani, 30 years later after the prosecution, in effect became an advocate for Milken with President Trump to extend this full presidential pardon to Michael Milken.
Yeah, you just covered a number of topics. Look, Mike and his brother established the Milken Family Foundation when they were in their 30s, back in 1982, long before this happened, to institutionalize their charitable giving, or to at least organize it all under one umbrella, a private foundation. The judge who sentenced him, Judge Kimber Wood in the Southern District of New York, found as part of the sentencing process that Michael Milken was one of the most unusual people she saw, who at such an young age gave so much, not of just money, but time, to all parts of society, including those people that were less privileged, that he should get credit for. And he's continued doing that his entire life. When he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, he started the Prostate Cancer Foundation to try to find cures for all serious diseases. There are millions of men walking around today that doctors and scientists will acknowledge owe their lives to the work that he's done in that area, because that's what he does. So, yes, he's done quite a bit in that area. The conference that we hold every year for the Milken Institute, the global conference, is coming up this May, brings leaders from government, from industry, from education, from healthcare together to look at the most serious problems that affect the world and to try to find solutions to those problems.
An amazing
Can I
story.
add one thing?
Yes, I just want Richard, real quickly, if he could. I believe, as I read the book, that Giuliani became an advocate for his pardon while he had influence in the White House, correct?
Yeah, and I think this tells you a lot about who Mike Milken is. A friend of his called him one day and said, Rudy Giuliani has prostate cancer. Would you be willing to meet with him to see if you could help him? Wow. And Mike readily, without reticence, said yes and met with him. Giuliani did become an advocate with two different presidents for Mike to get a pardon, feeling that from his experience in the Justice Department and working in the pardon division of the Justice Department, that Mike Milken checked every box more than anyone he'd ever seen and deserved to get a pardon. I'm not so
Harvey,
sure.
You wanted to make a comment. We're getting tight on time. Go ahead, Harvey.
First of all, Mike was diagnosed, as I recall, with prostate cancer on his health checkup when he was released from prison. I believe that's when it was discovered.
That's correct.
But let me just tell you something about Kimber Wood. The reason she gave that massive reduction in sentence is I have zero doubt that she understood that he was innocent, that she had been fooled by the shtick put on by the prosecutors, and by the end, she gave the sentence reduction because she realized he was innocent. The best she could do was reduce the sentence and let him out of prison.
And Harvey, if I'm not mistaken, you wrote that Rule 35 petition, and I believe
yes, with Alan,
Richard argued it.
Yes.
Well, again,
we all worked on that together, and fortunately, it was successful.
Well, I just want to say, Richard, the book Witness to a Prosecution, The Myth of Michael Milken, I recommend it highly, particularly to people who are aspiring to be lawyers, because you two represent the best within the legal profession. And Harvey, your book, 3 Felonies a Day, is always a great read. I just want to thank both of you for spending the time with us tonight. I think it was a great hour of radio, and I'm indebted to both of you for the time.
And Richard's, by the way, a great friend.
And as is Harvey. Harvey is, I said this to you earlier, Dan, I respected Harvey from the day I met him. He cares about human beings. He cares about the world. And he is as principled a person, I think, as I've ever met. So, Harvey, it's a pleasure to be on this show with you. Dan, I can't thank you enough for giving us the opportunity to discuss this matter.
Well, I'm totally honored. You both have presented it so clearly. It's been a wonderful class in criminal law. At the reality level, it was amazing. It was amazing. I thank you both very much, Harvey. We will talk soon. Richard, I hope to meet you someday.
I look forward to it, Dan. We'll make sure that happens.
All right. The 11 o'clock news awaits, and we have an hour coming up right after that newscast.
Do you have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life insurance policy 3 times the size of the policies you had to purchase for your previous mistakes? If so, you need to call Big Lou at Term Provider, 800-511-3535. Big Lou is intimately familiar with your problems, and if you're 50 or 60 years old and in reasonably good health, a $1 million policy should only cost about $100 to $200 per month. Big Lou may have a solution for your previous policies as well. You may even save enough money to lighten the load on your new $1 million policy. Remember, call Big Lou. He's like you, except he's only on number 2. Call Term Provider, 800-511-3535. That's 800-511-3535. For $1 million in term life insurance that you can live with, call Big Lou at 800-511-3535.
Hi, this is Steve Andrus. When was the last time you serviced your sump pump? Call the Sump Pump Geeks at 1-844-433-5225, sumppumpgeeks.com.
This is Dan Ray introducing the new Awaken 180 Golden Program. Awaken 180's customized weight loss solution for those of us over 65. Awaken180weightloss.com.
Hey guys, Billy Costa here, reminding you that Cambridge Savings Bank is here to be a partner on your financial journey. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
WBZ Boston, WXKS-FM HD2 Medford, an iHeart radio station. This is WBZ, Boston's news radio, redefining local news.
Good evening, I'm Dan Watkins. Here's what's happening. This morning's collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Maryland after it was struck by a cargo ship has some people wondering if something like that could happen here. WBZ TV's Louisa Moeller reports.
Massachusetts Highway Administrator Jonathan Gulliver tried to put residents at ease.
Is there a lot of similarity between Massachusetts and Baltimore? There is not.
Massachusetts has 2 truss bridges similar to the collapsed Baltimore Bridge, the Tobin Bridge in Boston and the Braga Bridge in Fall River. Gulliver says both undergo rigorous inspection.
They are inspected on at least a 2-year cycle.
Unlike the Baltimore Bridge, these bridges have piers, the columns under the bridge outside of the navigational channel.
My understanding is both the Bourne and the Sagamore, as well as the Tobin, those piers are all outside of the navigation channel. So a ship would run aground before they hit those piers and cause any structural damage.
And Massachusetts uses tugboats to escort cargo ships.
Something that was not happening in Baltimore at the time of the crash. Boston's Open Streets is expanding to a new neighborhood this year. Mayor Wu announces that Hyde Park has been added to the list of neighborhoods that will be temporarily closed to vehicle traffic to allow for a safe space for community and play. Dorchester, Roxbury, Jamaica Plain, East Boston, and Allston Brighton are also participating. The timing of this year's events has also been extended to 7.5 hours. Open Streets begins on on Sunday, May 5th in Dorchester. What's old is new again in Brighton. A store there is trying to breathe life into people's retail returns.
For big retail stores, returns are a huge pain. It often takes more money to process the return than the thing is worth. And that means the final fate of all those shirts and toasters is the dump.
It doesn't make any sense because a lot of the stuff is brand new.
Enter Jack Laughlin. His company, Bin Star, just opened up a new location in Brighton. He buys the returns from the bigger companies and sells them at a huge discount. That way it's out of sight, out of mind for the retailers.
We sort of pitch ourselves as the friendly neighborhood black hole.
The products avoid the landfill, and people get to pick up things like brand name dress shirts for $10. It's still a small company, but Laughlin is already eyeing a third location in Saugus. Kyle Schaffel, WBZ, Boston's News Radio.
After years of work, the Coolidge Corner Theater is introducing its new space, including 2 new movie houses. WBZ's Kyle Bray reports.
With the opening song from 2001, A Space Odyssey echoing, the Coolidge Corner Theater officially cut the ribbon on its new multi-million-dollar expansion. It's been years in the making, and much like the theater itself, it had to fight off the pandemic to get to this point. The theater's deputy director, Beth Gilligan, is thrilled to finally see people in the new space.
It's a realization of a long-time dream come true, just to be able to have more screens, to have this education space, to have an indoor lobby. It's going to be the Coolidge that everybody knows and loves, only bigger and better.
The expansion also includes a massive wraparound deck and a meeting space where they hope to host events for people in the community, from things like fundraisers to birthday parties. Arnold has been coming to the Coolidge for over 20 years, and he's impressed with the new space.
They kept the spirit of it and the look of it and made it even more beautiful and more useful.
From Brookline, Kyle Bray, WBZ, Boston's News Radio.
It's 11:03. Traffic and weather together with Subaru Retailers of New England. All-wheel drive traffic on the 3s.
We begin downtown. We're 93 north at a crawl, double right lane closure through the O'Neill Tunnel. You're backed up to Mass Ave. Airport Tunnel, Sumner and Callahan at the speed limit. Ted Williams west, the left lane closure, heavy to the expressway. On the Pike down to 1 lane and slow going westbound Tremont Street to Beacon Street. Eastbound ComAv through the Prudential Tunnel, closing exit 133 to Copley Square. You're off instead at the detour 134A South Station. South of Town Expressway South also moving very slowly with 2 right lanes closed at Morrissey Boulevard. You're slow to Neponset Circle. 93 north in Randolph, exit 4 to Route 24 is closed. North of town, 128 south, the left lane closure in Woburn at Washington Street, a minor delay. 128 north has a crash in the breakdown lane by Route 3, so no delay getting by. 93 south road work in Wilmington at Route 125, not a problem, but there is a setup in Stoneham at Park Street with a minor slowdown. More minor work crew delays, 93 north in Medford at Route 60, and then again at 133 in Andover, improved after 93. Route 3 South has a crash on the ramp to 128 North, slowing you down. On the Pike, eastbound work at the Charlton Service Plaza, not a problem. 495 South, watch for a work crew at 290. 290 no delay, but 2 work zones. Eastbound at 190, westbound at College Square in Worcester. Route 2 slows for work eastbound in Devons at Jackson Road. The right lane is closed. This report is sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving. For victims of drunk driving and drug driving, your grief is unique, but you're not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call the 24-hour victim helpline, 877-MAD-HELP, or visit mad.org. Steve Perez, WBZ 24-Hour Traffic Network.
At Members Plus Credit Union, get no fee checking, no monthly service charge, and you can do all your banking right from your phone. Plus, get a free digital wallet compatible debit MasterCard. Visit memberspluscu.org to sign up.
Insured by NCUA. Membership requires a $5 deposit in a share or savings account. NMLS 472281.
Here's the 4-day WBZ AccuWeather forecast.
Brisk and cold for tonight. A little bit of rain and drizzle. We'll fall back into the mid-30s. And for tomorrow, not as cold. Mostly cloudy. A couple of showers around. A high up to 51. We'll see occasional rain tomorrow night, down to 47. And periods of rain on Thursday, the high up to 50 to 54. More rain Thursday night. The rain tapers off Friday morning. Lingering clouds, windy Friday afternoon, high near 50. And brighter for the weekend with highs in the low 50s. I'm AccuWeather's John Feerick, WBZ, Boston's News Radio.
Everyone has financial goals, and regardless of what yours are, the process of establishing a comprehensive financial plan is key to achieving them. This is Chuck Zada from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and our new guide called Building a Financial Plan may help. Some goals are bigger than others, like saving for retirement, but even smaller goals like paying off your credit card debt can be an important part of a well-rounded financial plan. As you build your plan, break your goals down into realistic tasks, establish a savings strategy, or determine an asset allocation that aligns with your risk tolerance. It's also important to create Take checkpoints to help you monitor your progress and make sure your plan remains on track. Call us today at 800-393-4001 and ask for our new guide called Building a Financial Plan. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request it at ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Let's get back to Nightside with Dan Ray. I'm Dan Watkins, WBZ, Boston's News Radio.
It's Nightside with Dan Ray on WBZ, Boston's News Radio.
All right. Again, I just want to, I hope you were listening last hour. The book is Witness to a Prosecution, Richard Sandler. If you're thinking about going to law school, if you're a young lawyer, I think that this book would be an invaluable addition to your library. I can't recommend it more highly. I'm going to suggest to my producer, Marita, that we have this hour replayed on Sunday night at 11 o'clock. If you missed the hour or you want to listen to it again, all you have to do is go to nightsideondemand.com. Rob will have this hour posted sometime, I would say by, I don't want to put a lot of pressure on Rob, but sometime by 1:30, 2 o'clock this morning. Rob does a great job. He posts all of our hours at nightsideondemand.com, and there was so much to absorb. It's difficult to do that in an hour, but Richard Sandler was excellent, and I think Harvey Silverglade, as always, was excellent. And I'm very proud of that type of hour here on Nightside. I know that all of, not everyone's a lawyer. Not everyone is probably as interested in legal issues as I am, but that's one of my interests. I'm interested in politics. I'm interested in sports. I'm interested in legal issues and how they interact and intersect with the world in which we live and the country in which we live. Now, not sure where we're going to go here at 11, but I do want to take at least a moment to recognize that today Robert F. Kennedy Jr. chose an attorney and an entrepreneur from California as his running mate, a woman named Nicole Shanahan. I don't know how much play that got on tonight's nightly newscasts, particularly in view of the horrific event that occurred in Baltimore last night around 1:30 this morning with that huge cargo ship literally crashing in and destroying the Francis Scott Key Bridge, which is about 1.5 miles long. So I probably am going to want to talk about that a little bit. But before I talk about that, let me congratulate Lola from San Diego. A week ago on Friday night, which was, let's see, this would have been, it was Wednesday night. Wednesday night. On March 20th, last week, we asked the question of who should RFK Jr. pick as his vice presidential candidate. And there were a couple of folks who apparently had some inside information, or they'd read more about it than I did. People, were suggesting Jesse Ventura, Tulsi Gabbard, Nikki Haley, Franklin Graham, Condi Rice, Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton. There were all sorts of suggestions. I suggested that if he was really smart, and I don't think he made the best choice today. We'll talk about that in a moment. But let me congratulate Lola of San Diego, who will be awarded a Nightside coffee mug courtesy of our great friends at collegehype.com, Jack Doherty and Nicole and Joe and the whole gang over there. Who produced Nightside gear, which you can purchase if you want, but Lola will have a Nightside coffee mug sent to her home in San Diego because she was the first who mentioned Nicole Shanahan. So apparently Shanahan's name was out there, unless Nicole was clairvoyant. I don't know. There were other names mentioned, including mine by one caller, but more realistically, Tom Brady. No one mentioned Aaron Rodgers, although Rodgers was talked about a lot. I suggested two people. One, Liz Cheney, who had the advantage of being a Republican, which would have balanced off the ticket a little bit, and probably would have driven Donald Trump crazy, or Beto O'Rourke, Democratic congressman, former Democratic congressman from Texas, who I think would have provided some geographical balance. As it turns out, both RFK Jr. and Nicole Shanahan come from California, or residents of California. Now, Shanahan's 38 years old. She has been a big supporter of Kennedy's campaign. She has been also a big Democratic supporter across the board. She supported President Biden in financially in 2020. She supported Hillary Clinton. She supported Congressman Ro Khanna, who's a fairly well-known member of Congress down there. She supported initially Marianne Williamson's primary bid in 2020, and she donated to Hillary Clinton's campaign back in 2016. I'm quoting from an article here from Politico. Now, here's where I think Kennedy made a mistake, and I'd love to know what you think. I think that he has picked someone who, has no political experience whatsoever. So if you vote for a president and have in the back of your mind who the vice president might be, he's picked a 38-year-old high-tech entrepreneur who has an interesting background, which we can leave to the tabloids. Not going to go there. Obviously, a very brilliant and successful person. But I think for Kennedy to have made the big splash, he had to, I think, pull somebody who had some, some, when I say credibility, I mean someone who people had some knowledge of, and someone who's also disenchanted with someone of who people knew, who would know. Tulsi Gabbard would be one, former Democratic congressman from Hawaii. Again, if there was someone in the Republican Party, as I said, Liz Cheney, if you wanted to have a shot, why not shake it up? But Kennedy went, financially. Ironically, they're both from California, so I think that according to this article in the Politico, you can, I guess, have people from both states, from the same state, on the ballot, but I do not believe that as California residents, they could both, if they happen to win California, I don't think they could accept those electoral votes. It was the same dilemma that George Bush and Dick Cheney. Remember Darth Vader, Dick Cheney, Liz Cheney's dad? He was vice president for 8 years. Many people suggested at the time that he was running the White House. Maybe he was. But he was living in Texas. And so he had to go back and reestablish a residence in as where George Bush had been governor and also lived. So Dick Cheney had to go back and reestablish his residency from the state of Wyoming in order to run. Other than that, if he and Bush had won Texas, which they did, they wouldn't have been able to have counted those votes. So I think this was an opportunity lost for RFK Jr., and I'd love to see if any of you agree or disagree with that. I'd love to talk about that. If you think this was a brilliant choice, a woman, young, different generation than RFK, you want to make that argument, please feel free. I don't think this helps him, in my opinion. But your opinion is just as important as mine. And pick up the phone. I'm not going to argue with you because it is simply an opinion. We don't need to argue about facts on this one. The only fact that I can tell you is that Lola of San Diego has won the Nightside mug. I had never heard of Nicole Shanahan before last week. Maybe some of you had. She's a very presentable candidate, but I don't know. Do you begin your political career running for vice president? I guess you could say the same thing about Bobby Kennedy, although he has the patina and the name of the Kennedy family, although he's been, I think, politically disowned by most of the Kennedy family. So, open up the phone calls. Let's have a little bit of fun with this. 617-254-1030, 617-931-1030. Also, 888-929-1030. My name is Dan Ray. Love to get your take on it. Give us a call. We've talked about the law tonight. We talked about religion in the 9 o'clock hour. We talked about the Baltimore with a guest, very important guest in the 8 o'clock hour. So we're trying to give you as much variety as possible. We're going to give you a little politics here. Let's have at it. Coming back on Nightside. My name is Dan Ray. We have 40 minutes. Let's fill those phone lines up and let's have some conversation going. This is a talk show. Last hour was an interview hour. Okay? This is a talk hour. Coming back on Nightside.
Hi, Dan. Nightside with Dan Ray on WBZ, Boston's News Radio.
My name's Tommy, and I lost 85 pounds on Awaken 180. I just feel better, and that was evident when I went to the doctor, and all of my levels, cholesterol, had dropped off the map 3 months after I was in the program, and they were down like 159 was my total cholesterol level. I went in and I showed the coaches, and they were absolutely thrilled. I did have one huge awakening, if you would, that the program was going to work for me long term, and that was when in the fall of 2023, after I'd been on the program for about 9 months, I stepped on the scale and I did not see a 2. And that hasn't happened in 25 years. Awaken 180 is my solution for weight loss.
Thanks, Tommy. This is Dan Ray. Everything from lowering cholesterol and blood pressure to simply feeling better. Learn how easy it is to reach your goals with Awaken 180 Weight Loss. Reserve your at-home consultation today at awaken180weightloss.com.
When temperatures dip and snow falls, New Englanders know where to turn. The WBZ News Radio Storm Center. WBZ News Radio is stacked with weather experts 24/7 to deliver up-to-the-minute conditions. WBZ News Radio Storm Center coverage is ready when you need it most and can be accessed by radio or streamed on your favorite device anywhere, anytime. The WBZ News Radio Storm Center is brought to you by Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. You're on Nightside with Dan Ray on WBZ, Boston's News Radio.
All right, let's go to the phone, see what people have to say. Again, I think that there was a big build-up to this by the RFK camp. And by the way, I got to tell you, I think that, and I will say this again, that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. deserves Secret Service protection. That is very much under the radar. I don't know how much coverage the Kennedy announcement received today. I was in meetings for most of the day. And I assume that someone can tell me if Fox and or MSNBC or CNN carried the announcement. I don't know if it was a surprise. I think that word leaked out of it, not only on our show last Wednesday night, but earlier today. And I would love to know, also incorporate into this conversation, the Biden administration is not giving Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Secret Service protection. And I'm sure that by some measure they can justify that he doesn't have, a certain amount of percentage of support, or he's not a member of the Democratic or Republican Party, or is not nominated technically, whatever. But if anything happens to this man, it will be laid at the feet of Joe Biden and also Alejandro Mayorkas, who, as the head of Homeland Security, technically is the one that makes the decision. But I'm sure the decision is being made by the Biden campaign. And it is eminently foreseeable that there are enough nutcakes in the world that someone might have, and I believe that there have been a couple of incidents that the Kennedy campaign has talked about. And so shame on Joe Biden and on the Biden administration for a cowardly and vile decision not to make available Secret Service protection to RFK, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Let me go to Brenda in Dorchester. Brenda, you've been on the line longer, so you get to start. Go right ahead, Brenda.
Oh, thank you, dear. And it's nice to talk to you again. Tonight's show, a fabulous show, just plain fabulous. And I will listen to it again Sunday, because I always listen to the shows on Sunday night, too.
Thank you very much.
Robert Kennedy, Liz Cheney, I'm telling you, would have been the best thing he could have done for himself, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
I'm an independent voter, but I like her.
Yeah, if he came to me and said, "Who is the best person I can pick in this race that would generate the buzz?" I don't think this candidate, this vice presidential candidate, this woman who I think is extremely successful, Nicole Shanahan, is going to generate a buzz. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know anything about her really, to be honest with you. But I watch Liz, and I've watched her for a long, long time. And I tell you, if she ran, I'd vote for her. I definitely would have voted for her. But I think that would be fabulous for him. And it's too bad. And I am disappointed at Biden for not giving him protection. He deserves it.
I mean, look, he lost an uncle and he lost his father, okay?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there are people in our society who have this delusion of grandeur, and it makes him a target. And I say shame on the Biden administration and shame on Joe Biden, because he should have been big enough and man enough to say, look, I know he's a political danger to the Biden administration, because obviously if a lot of Democrats were to leave the Biden administration and vote for Bobby Kennedy, it could cost Biden the White House. I get that.
Yeah.
But he should have risen above that and said,
oh, yeah,
what's more
most
important
definitely.
Yeah, because now anything does happen, God forbid, I don't want this country to go through this again.
Oh, it's awful.
It's people are going to point fingers at Biden and say, what did you do to stop this? So
that's right.
That's my thought.
Well,
Brenda, thank you.
I really enjoyed the show, and I know you're busy, and I'll still say to you, you should come give a lecture in Winchester, because especially on this book, I'm going to buy this book. And
this is my friend. This is Brenda from Winchester, not Brenda from Dorchester. Now I know who it is.
Oh, no, from Winchester. And not that there aren't good people in Dorchester, but I think, if you can try, oh, God, Dan, you have such great shows, dear. You really do. And
what happens is, to be honest with you, is I work on them a lot during the day, okay?
Yeah.
More than anybody can
But
imagine.
it shows.
Well,
But it shows.
And
the other thing before I go is you are, without a doubt, the best talk show on the radio. You try to keep people calm. And when they get out of control, you just push that button and I laugh. But there's another guy on the radio, and I'm not going to mention his name, and
Thank
what
you.
a bully. What a bully. That's all I'm going to say. And
Thanks,
but you got a good show, kiddo. Keep it up.
All right. Thanks so much. We'll talk soon.
See you
okay?
later.
And we'll see what we can do on that other request. Okay. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
a lot.
All right.
All
Talk
right,
soon.
dear. Have a good
Thanks,
night.
Brenda. Good
Bye-bye.
night. Bye-bye. All right. Let me go to the winner of the RFK Jr. Vice Presidential Sweepstakes, also a Californian, Lola in San Diego. Lola, congratulations. Our digital audience is giving you a well-deserved round of applause.
Thank you, Dan. My source for that was the New York Post last week.
You know, I'll tell you, I don't know what their source was. You were smart enough to have a source. I think you might have even mentioned it that night.
Yes, I did.
Had you ever heard of her? Had you ever heard of her before?
No, never heard of her before. But I'm laughing because the New York Post is like the National Enquirer, but they.
Well, I
they
think
have
I think in fairness to the Post, they're a little bit higher on the food chain than the National Enquirer.
Well, you know what I mean. They put a lot of like speculative stories, but also true stories.
Yeah, the guardrails are a little wide there. I get it. But I think they stay for the most part within the guardrails. Where the Enquirer would, I don't even know if the Enquirer is still being published. I
don't either.
Check it out in supermarket lines, and the aliens have landed in Alaska. Well, somehow the mainstream media missed that. If it really happened.
Yeah. So here's what was funny today. I went to see my mom, and she's like, "Who's this